How's it going, everyone? And it looks like Sony and Naughty Dog are getting absolutely fried, absolutely roasted, cooked, whatever you want to say about the revelation of The Last of Us Complete. And honestly, a little bit surprised by that, but now in retrospect, I really shouldn't have been surprised by that. So let me explain. I heard about The Last of Us getting this complete release or getting a new release a few weeks ago. I want to say it was Biblicune. Yeah, it was Deal Labs and Biblicune who reported The Last of Us was going to be getting another release, that it was going to be priced at $110, and most people came to the conclusion, okay, the new season is starting, it's probably a bundle of the two games. It was pretty easy to come to that conclusion, and I just kind of looked at that report and I was like, okay, that's interesting, whatever. Didn't really think too much about it. Then they revealed this Last of Us Complete, and oh my goodness, the tweet that Sony had dropped ratioed to all hell. You're talking about, there's one tweet that I pulled up, an X post I should say. WTF do they even do at that studio? Okay, so first of all, PlayStation's initial tweet, 2 unforgettable stories in one package, introducing The Last of Us Complete coming to PS5 today. 7.8k likes. The top reply, how many times are y'all gonna re-release the same damn game? LMAO, 14,000 likes, and then somebody quote tweeted the initial tweet by PlayStation. WTF do they even do in that studio? 119,000 likes. Well, let me tell you what they do at that studio. They worked on a live service game that they ultimately canned. Probably a couple of years of productivity absolutely wasted. They re-released Last of Us Part 1, then they re-released Last of Us Part 2, and now they're working on Intergalactic, which honestly, not too sure about how that game is gonna do. People get mad whenever I question Intergalactic success. Look, we don't know much about that game, but whenever a game is revealed and it gets absolutely obliterated in the YouTube comments section on PlayStation's official channel, y'all think that's a good thing? Y'all think that's just a vocal minority? Look, it's important to assess what's the vocal minority and what's not, but that is not a good start for a game to be revealed. If you think PlayStation's looking at that and they're like, oh my god, this is awesome, so many people are talking about the game, I don't think that's the case. I think Intergalactic's a game that has hundreds of millions of dollars behind it, and if it's getting clowned right out the gate, that's not a good thing, you guys, but we'll talk more about that at the end of this video. So, why did I initially not see this as that big of a deal? It's an element of, I'm not too surprised. Sony re-releases games left and right, and on top of that, I think the optics of this, and now that I assess it in retrospect, and I look at it from, you have to look at the optics of this situation. The optics is, Naughty Dog hasn't put out a game in 5 years. PlayStation is remastering games left and right that people don't want to see remastered, or at least a lot of people don't want to see remastered. In a vacuum, guys, the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster is awesome. I really like it. It's a $10 upgrade, and I think it looks fantastic. The Days Gone upgrade, I'm sure, is going to be solid. Last of Us Part 2, that upgrade, $10 upgrade for that with no return, that's a pretty solid upgrade when you assess it in a vacuum. When you look at the broader picture, Sony first-party output has been incredibly lacking. You're talking about games getting canceled left and right, and on top of all of that, you're talking about games that people want more so or have been clamoring for, like a Bloodborne, not getting remastered. I know that some people are unable to look at the context, but looking at the context of why this is getting clowned on, which, to be honest, when I initially saw the story, I didn't think there was gonna be this vitriolic response to it, but there absolutely has been, and now that I think about it, yeah, that whenever this tweet was gonna go out, whenever the social media push was gonna happen about Last of Us Complete, people were just gonna clown on it because of the optics of the situation, and that's what you have to look at. In a vacuum, who gives a damn? It's just 2 games being re-released. Games get bundled all the time. These aren't even remasters, you guys. These are games getting bundled together. It's $100 on the PlayStation Store. Then they have a special edition for $110 that's exclusive to PlayStation Direct. Like, when I saw it, I'm just like, okay, either absolute suckers are gonna buy the PS Direct copy, the physical copy, or hardcore collectors. Nobody is gonna buy Last of Us Complete on PlayStation Store, given that it's just a bundle of the 2 games that you potentially already own. So if you did want Last of Us Part 1 or Part 2, you already own them. They're just re-releasing it as Last of Us Complete with a little bit of a discount. It's $100, so essentially you're paying $40 for Last of Us Part 2, and then $60 for Last of Us Part 1. Last of Us Part 1 released at $70, Last of Us Part 2 2 released at 40. Let me just say, it's an absolute ripoff. I feel like a big reason Sony does this is so they can repackage things and price and appreciate the price point. That's why I think a lot of these remasters happen. Look at what they did with Horizon Zero Dawn. They remastered it, they kind of repackaged it. Sure, it's a great upgrade, but they also appreciated the price point. This is the factor of it that people don't pay attention to. Where Horizon Zero Dawn was a game that was regularly going on sale for $10, they remaster it, that game's price point has been appreciated to $50, and if it goes on sale, that remastered version is $40. The same thing is gonna happen with Days Gone. The same thing happened with Last of Us Part 2. If you remember, pre-Last of Us Part 2 remastered, Last of Us Part 2 was going on sale regularly for like $10-15. You can get a used copy of that for like $10 easily. I think I got a used copy for a buddy of mine for $10. Not for myself, I got that game at launch, but for a friend, I remember buying that game super cheap. You can't do that with Last of Us Part 2, so it's kind of like this artificial inflation of the price point when they do repackage these games all creatively. I do think that's an element of this that people are missing. But Last of Us Complete, doing a re-release, it's not like this is taking effort from Naughty Dog. It's not like, oh, we gotta get a team together and they gotta work on Last of Us Complete. Like, it's not that. This isn't even an upgraded release. This is essentially what Square Enix did, bundling Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth together in like the twin pack or whatever. It's just them bundling games together. However, when you look at social media optics, given how many times Last of Us has been re-released, given that Sony's first-party output is absolutely barren. This year is a little bit better. You got Ghost of Yotei, and for me, first-party is the in-house PlayStation studios. That's how I've always described first-party. I consider Death Stranding 2, Lost Soul Aside, those are second-party games. I get that this debate has been now ongoing as far as what's first-party and what's not, because Microsoft is talking about how Ninja Gaiden 4 is a first-party game. I don't agree with that. They can't just change the definition of how people have described first-party games forever, but I digress. PlayStation output has been so weak, so it's an optics situation that this looks so bad. Let me also address the people being like, oh my god, you guys are complaining about Mario Kart World for $80, but then you'll see Last of Us Complete. I don't want to see anybody complain about Mario Kart World for $80 now that Last of Us Complete is $100. Let me tell you guys something, and this might blow your mind, alright? Buckle up with this one. Two things can be true. Oh my goodness, Mario Kart World can be perceived to be overpriced. Last of Us Complete can be perceived to be a nonsense re-release, and whether or not you want to define it as a re-release, it's a bundle, whatever you want to call it, they both can be true. Everybody complained, or at least most people complained about Last of Us Part 1 at $70 being overpriced. This idea that two things can't be true. Like, I've been complaining about Sony for how long now? How they're taking advantage of their consumer, the increased price points of PlayStation Plus. That doesn't excuse, and that's where social media gets into this fanboy flame war where, oh, PlayStation's screwing over their fans more than Nintendo, so that makes Nintendo screwing over their fans okay, or vice versa. Oh, you guys are paying $70 for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom upgrade. Actually, it's $80. $80 for Tears of the Kingdom, $70 for Breath of the Wild. Look at over here on PlayStation, we only have to pay $50 for the Horizon Zero Dawn remaster. Two things can be true, you guys. I get that that's a wild concept, but these companies, they all study the landscape. Mario Kart World is going at $80, and if PlayStation guys want to poke fun at Mario Kart being $80, guess what? You think PlayStation's not studying that? You think other publishers aren't studying that, getting ready to jack up their games to $80? You guys are kidding yourselves. And in the future, when the game price point standard becomes $80, what happens next generation when they do, let's pull out a game, what's like a new IP? Returnal Remastered on the PlayStation 6, and they release that at $80 or $70. I don't know, I'm just throwing something out there. Or Ratchet Rift Apart Upgraded Edition for $80. Y'all realize that's gonna happen. It's all laying the foundation for the future. They're gonna one-up each other as far as how much they're gonna screw over the consumer, especially when they have no competition. Sony can do wild. Sony has no prerogative to put out banger exclusives anymore. At least they don't have as much pressure. I should say that they should still absolutely try to put out big exclusives and whatnot. But when Microsoft isn't that fierce direct competition that they once were, the pressure lessens than what it was in the past. So that's why a lot of this is going on, and that's why Sony did go so forward with live service. Why? Because live service offers another avenue for revenue generation. They already got people in their ecosystem, that ecosystem being PlayStation. They got people spending money on PlayStation Plus. They need you to spend money on an ecosystem within an ecosystem, if you can follow that. That's what the live service games, the opportunity they presented to Sony. It hasn't all turned out, but that's a big reason why first-party output is so barren. That's a big reason why Naughty Dog hasn't put out a game since 2020 as far as a new game goes. Not Last of Us Part 1, not Last of Us Part 2, and their next game isn't gonna come out until 2027. And let's talk about Intergalactic as well, because Intergalactic is a game that has not been received the best. I get it that some people are just into Naughty Dog and they're excited for that game no matter what, but I'm not here to talk about why people are excited for it, why people aren't. Look at the comment section of the reveal trailer of that game. If y'all think that's a good look for that game, or the like to dislike ratio, which you can find with extensions and whatnot, not a good look for that game, and there is a world where Intergalactic could flop. Absolutely, when a game is received like that, the possibility, the potential, at the very least, the potential is there for that game to flop. And anybody just thinking that that's not a possibility, you're out to lunch. You are kidding yourself when the reception is like that. It's a brand new IP. Any brand new IP has a potential to flop, but a new IP with the reception that that game has in the comment section, the like to dislike ratio, it absolutely has a high potential. And that's why I think if I had to predict the future, if I had to guess what is going to happen based on the information that we have right now, what I think is going to happen is Intergalactic is going to come out in 2027. I think that game is going to do underwhelming numbers, close out the PlayStation 5 generation, a generation that's kind of a wash, and it's going to be looked back at as one of the weakest generations in the history of gaming. I really do believe that in 20, 30 years, people are going to look back at the PS5 era as a fairly weak generation. Then you gotta move on. You gotta take the L with a lot of these games, and this is just my prediction. I could be totally wrong, but this is my prediction. We'll see how this transpires in 2 to 3 years. I think they'll take an L with Intergalactic. They'll go back to the drawing board, and they're already going back to the drawing board a little bit, canceling all of these live service games, set up for the PlayStation 6. I think at that point, that's when you gotta bring back the heavy hitters. You gotta get people really excited for the PS6. That's when I could see, okay, Intergalactic took an L. We circle back to Last of Us, and we do The Last of Us Part 3. We do a teaser trailer for that game ahead of the PS6. That game will be out in 10 years. You know, people will get suckered into thinking it'll be out in a couple of years like they did with Wolverine. Y'all know how Sony play this game, and when you're promoting a new console, that's what you do. You drop CG trailers for games that come out in 5 to 10 years. I'm looking at you, Perfect Dark. I'm looking at you, Fable. I'm looking at you, Wolverine. But that's what they'll do. Either I would have to think a Last of Us Part 3 teaser trailer, or something like Uncharted is back. Naughty Dog going back to an IP that's set in stone, that is gonna give them a lot of momentum right out the gate. Because if Intergalactic flops, that's when people are gonna start talking about Naughty Dog being washed. I don't think people are at that yet. Last of Us Part 2 was an incredibly divisive game, but I don't think people are there where they're gonna call Naughty Dog absolutely washed. If Intergalactic flops, and I could see that game being incredible from a gameplay standpoint. Look at Last of Us Part 2. That game was incredible from a gameplay standpoint, but I could see that game doing lackluster from fan reception as well as commercially. If Intergalactic does underwhelming numbers, Naughty Dog is going to be pressured to going back to something that is going to be an easy sell. I get that Druckmann said Last of Us' story is over. I don't buy it. I don't buy that at all when you have an IP like this, and now you have a TV show as well. Let's get Part 3. I believe a teaser trailer for that will be revealed ahead or around the time of the PlayStation 6's launch. Either that or Uncharted coming back, one of those prominent IPs, and then they'll circle back into doing what brought PlayStation to the dance. I think, and this is the ideal scenario, that they'll take the live service approach, they'll take it as a learning lesson, and then they'll course correct. But the reality is, there's no pressure to course correct unless Microsoft gives them a reason, and at this point, Microsoft isn't giving them a reason. They're bringing their games to their platform, so they don't have that direct head-to-head competition, but you would still want to cultivate a platform that has a lot of interest from a lot of people, and I just feel like PlayStation is failing to do that, but they're just taking a big W because Microsoft is cooked and they don't have direct competition. If they had direct competition, I think the landscape would be very different right now, and I think that's why you're seeing a lot of things like PS Plus price going up in a lot of different regions, PS Plus value going down. But, you know, that's a topic I could talk about for 20-30 minutes. You get the idea, and I just wanted to leave that prediction with a little bit of optimism. I think Intergalactic is going to end up being an incredible game from a gameplay standpoint because Naughty Dog is incredibly talented. I'm playing through Last of Us Part 2 again, and my goodness, that game from a gameplay standpoint is tremendous, a visual standpoint, tremendous. I think Intergalactic will fall similarly. I just think from a fan reception, it'll be very divisive, and I think Last of Us Part 2 had the benefit of its leaning on an incredibly established IP, with Last of Us Part 1 being unanimously praised. Intergalactic doesn't have that, and Intergalactic isn't coming out in an era where Naughty Dog's goodwill is at an all-time high. I don't think they're BioWare, far from it, but I don't think they're at the level that they once were as far as perception. I think they're getting clowned on, and rightfully so, for all of these re-releases. The optics of Naughty Dog aren't great. Look at that tweet. 110,000 likes just clowning on them. That's not good perception of a studio that is supposed to be PlayStation's most prominent studio. PlayStation's heavy hitter. That's what Naughty Dog was, and it's gonna be 7 years since they put out a new game between Last of Us Part 2 and Intergalactic, and I just remember 2007 to 2013, that's when a big portion of my gaming youth was Uncharted 1 into Uncharted 2 into Uncharted 3 into Last of Us Part 1. That was their 6-year stretch from 07 to 13. The greatest stretch maybe a development studio for my money has ever had, and to see where Naughty Dog is at this point, it's incredibly sad and upsetting, but, you know, hopefully they can course correct, and hopefully things in a couple of years will get better. It's just unfortunate when you do take these L's, like a Sony Bend, live service games in development for 6 years, and then they just get canned. 6 years of wasted time. Last of Us Factions, years and years of wasted time. All of these live service games, years and years of wasted time. And now this is what happens when the optics just look so bad, and you just got re-release after re-release after re-release. It's an optics situation. Like this re-release in a vacuum, this complete collection, it's a bundle on the digital storefront. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't give this type of reaction, but it does because of the context surrounding it, and that's what's important. That's what I even failed to understand when I initially heard the reports about this. I literally just didn't care, and I was just like, whatever, they're doing a bundle on the PlayStation Store. Who gives a damn? But the optics, the context, that's what matters. But went on long enough. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. A lot to get into, but yeah, a lot of interesting discussion I'm sure will be had. And let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.